Triple H and Chyna come to the ring for a promo, and this is probably what this show is best remembered for. He comes to the ring and says Shawn Michaels dropped the ball. For any of you wondering, Shawn Michaels had lost the WWF Championship the night before to Stone Cold Steve Austin. Triple H says he will form the DX Army tonight. And when you set out an army, you look out for... Sorry, I messed it up. You look out to your blood. You look to the click. DX music hits and out comes Sean Waltman, better known to many as X-Pac. Waltman, but the commentators don't say X-Pac. I think they refer to him as maybe the kid, or they say, oh, I think Jim Ross says, look who's back. Anyway, X-Pac comes to the ring. He tells Hulk Hogan that he sucks. We'll go into that in a minute. He says, referring to Hogan, he says, you better not stop short or Eric Bischoff will go so far up your ass, he'll know what you had for breakfast. He says that Kevin Nash and Scott Hall would be standing right here with us if they weren't being held hostage by WCW. And then he then finishes the promo with, we're here to rip ass on the World Wrestling Federation. He's also wearing a D-Generation X t-shirt, so we assume that Sean Waltman, formerly Six in the NWO and formerly the 1-2-3 Kid, and obviously for the smarter fans, knew him as a member of the Real Life Clique, is now a member of the new D-Generation X. I know what you want to say, Sam. The line in this, which is just so funny, he's building up that he's got something really nasty to say to Hulk Hogan. He's really going to give Hulk Hogan something. And the line is, Hulk Hogan, you suck, pal.
Oh, man, when we watched this, like, how many times did we rewind that and just, we were dying. Yeah, I have something I want to get off my chest. I heard Hulk Hogan come out on television saying I couldn't cut the mustard. Well, Hulk Hogan, you suck, pal. Got him.
Well, it's like you thought he was going to defend.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Hogan said that I couldn't cut the mustard. You thought X-Pac was maybe defend himself or say something about Hogan's age or holding guys down or any of these things that have been said about Hogan. The best he came up with was, you suck, pal.
Oh, it's just hilarious because you think, I mean, maybe with the benefit of hindsight with what DX was from that point onwards, more, but when you're expecting him to be really edgy or say something really transgressive or something, and then he just rips into Hulk Hogan with some 1930s like Dust Bowl parlance. Oh boy, you suck, pal. It was just so funny.
I will say this, that line was pretty funny, but Waltman, X-Pac, he's fired up here. This was a really, really good promo. I thought this was great. You could tell, like, X-Pac,
his energy was incredible.
Yes. Before this, I don't think people really perceived X-Pac as much of a promo guy, but this was a really awesome promo. I think it's also really interesting to see, like, before this, WWF never really referenced stuff in WCW. They did the vignettes of the Billionaire Ted and the Nacho Man and all that stuff, but I never really heard wrestlers refer
directly coming out of a wrestler's mouth. Yeah,
yes.
I think. Yeah, I was going to mention that. I asked if this was the first time.
I'm not sure if it's the first time, but it definitely wasn't commonplace. So for him to mention Scott Hall and Kevin Nash about WCW, I thought was really, really interesting. The DX, it's funny because the original DX was Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Chyna. Then tonight, this episode is the birth of the new DX, which obviously I'm not spoiling this for anyone, but X-Pac.
Apart from Flip Gordon.
If he's listening, what up, Flip? The new DX was X-Pac, Triple H, Chyna, and the New Age Outlaws. Yeah. And I think a lot of times when you do a new group, everyone always says, oh, the original was better. I think a lot of people consider the second version of DX to be the better one or the more successful.
It's the definitive one.
It does seem that.
For sure. Yeah.
And this is really interesting as well. Also, another thing people don't ever really talk about. This is kind of a reason why I want to have a podcast, just to bring up points that people haven't brought up before. No one really talks about how DX was basically a rip-off of the NWO. Obviously, it was different and it was more, like, almost say like childish than the NWO, but it was the Clique So the clique was Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Triple H, X-Pac, and Shawn Michaels. And then Kevin Nash and Scott Hall leave, and they form the NWO and X-Pac, and they're in the NWO. So then the other half of the clique, they're like, okay, well, we're going to make our group too. And we're also going to wear leather jackets. We're also going to spray paint. We're also going to wear black
with
t-shirts
white, yeah.
with a white logo. And we're going to be, the rebels as well. No one ever really says about how DX was basically a rip-off of NWO. And of course, like I said before this, WWE didn't really ever do factions and stuff. So it really was kind of, I felt like kind of WWE copied that idea from WCW. So I think it's really interesting the fact that they then got an NWO member, Sean Waltman, as to be in the DX. And I think Waltman at the time had been fired from WCW. I can't remember exactly for what. I also believe he got a FedEx. He got fired by a FedEx as well. So he's obviously very, very angry.
That's brutal. Jeez Louise.
And I actually think, sorry, someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure X-Pac was injured at this point when they brought him into WWF. So obviously he comes out in street gear. I don't think he wrestles for quite a little while. But obviously, and this is really significant because I feel like this was in the Monday Night Wars. This was one of the first deflects, like one of the first people to leave WCW, then turn up on WWF TV, because it normally gone the other way, where wrestlers had left the WWF, turned up on WCW. Now we're seeing it flip flops, and we'd seen it before. We've seen guys from WCW come to WWF, of course, but they typically weren't big stars in WCW. Like Stunning Steve Austin wasn't a massive star in WCW. He came to WWF, became a massive star. Or like Mean Mark Calloway wasn't a big star in WCW, but X-Pac, he was part of the NWO. He was part of the hottest wrestling angle in WCW, and now he's here in the WWF with Triple H. But yeah, I thought this was a really good segment. I think if you mention this episode to people, the Raw after WrestleMania 14, I think this is the thing that people think about, X-Pac's debut. And I mean, we'll go through this after the show. This show has so many memorable moments that are just played for years and years after this. There's so many like career-defining moments in this one episode of Raw. Now I feel fantastic. Like weeks and weeks of TV go by and you can tell the difference. Like nothing happens. Like one thing happens a year. Here, it's like there's like 5 big things happen in one night. It's pretty wild.